Hey everyone, it's MJ. How's it going? It's Tuesday here. I just made it to Denver and I'm staying with one of my girlfriends who's like one of my sisters from junior high and high school. So that's why the environment's a little bit different. But today I wanted to talk to you guys about forgiveness, and this is going to be kind of the theme that I'm running with this week because it's also been very pertinent and loud in my own ethereal space. The topic of forgiveness, it's just been like the lesson that I've been needing to really embody and learn and like get down on pat, because I think that I was just meant to share that with you guys. So stick around for the 3 tips that I'm going to share that will not only help in your process of forgiveness, but also shed light on why it's so important when you're going through a spiritual awakening. So if you've been following me for a little while on social media or any other accounts or whatever, you know at least probably that I have been through a lot of different situations that from the outside perspective would cause a lot of trauma, and they did at the moment when they happened. And I share my story not because, I want people to feel bad for me, but I want to share so that if you have been through a similar situation, you have one model of someone who has transcended these types of situations. So just to kind of put it all out on the table, I'm going to go through a couple of big moments in my life that are just part of my story. This is something that my ego likes to hold on to, but I know is not me. It's just the experiences that this body, this mind has had, and whether or not they cause trauma is up to me to choose. And that's where forgiveness comes in, right? So I'm trying to give you guys an abridged version because obviously I can't put like 28 years of life into this very, very condensed video because I don't want to make it too long. But I'm the first American born in my whole entire family, which means on both sides. So both my mom and my dad's side, I'm the first American. And because of that, there came with it a lot of societal conditioning, being an Asian American woman. And so that was kind of how I started my life, right? Like my family chose to move to the US and raise an Asian American baby, but they have all this conditioning from having been immigrants. And then my parents were very they're lovely people. I love my parents so much, but they definitely had kids. My mom shared this with me. They got married and they had kids because everybody else was doing it. It was just that time, that demographic to do it. And when my mom shared that with me, I was like, that is a horrible idea to have kids and get married. I'm like, go live your life. But again, it's a cultural and generational thing that happened, but obviously it did affect me in a lot of ways because my parents, in my opinion, when I was younger, were not ready to be parents. And then eventually my parents got divorced when I was between 6 and 7, and I was very aware that it was happening, and I was also very aware that they were not good for each other. Like, I was very much like, I have a very clear memory of myself going up to my mom and, stroking her hair and, calming her down after she broke the news to my dad that she wanted to have a divorce. was like, you're gonna be so much happier. Like, I'm so proud of you. Like, you deserve to be happy. And like, that was coming from like a 6-year-old. So it was very, like, I still have a very, very vivid memory about that. But as you can tell, from a very early age, like, I had to grow up pretty quickly. And at that point, I had, my mom and my dad had my younger sister already. She was about 1.5 when that happened. So she was unaware of anything going on. And then cut to me being about 8 or 9. I had lived, my mom, because she was going through a divorce, she sent me to live with my grandparents in Houston. And I lived with them for a year. And then when she came back to take us back from my grandparents' house, she had met a guy who is now my stepdad. He was my stepdad before, and then we'll get to that part of the story in a second. But they met while she was kind of like searching for her own way and trying to get back on her feet after the divorce. And I was kind of without both of my parents, just kind of caring for myself and my sister and hanging out with my grandparents. And then when my mom came back into our lives, she met this guy, and my initial reaction was like, don't like him. He's not a good dude. And I mean, to this day, I know that my intuition was definitely right, but I still wouldn't change the path that I was forced into because of that choice that my mom made. You know, I did tell her and voice to her, like, he's not a good dude, and like, I don't really want him around us. But like, she continued to see him and fell madly in love, and you know, there's a big trauma bond there, and eventually everything kind of unraveled. And you know, we got to know him better. He had he had 2 sons, one of which is my stepbrother who committed suicide eventually. Another one is a stepbrother that I have who is the same age as my sister. And my stepdad started showing his true colors eventually, which was that he was an abusive alcoholic and super, like, unconscious. And that's all I can really say about it, because he, at that time, had no idea what he was doing. Like, he knew, but he also didn't know. Like, and I think as you kind of start to ascend spiritually, and as you really unpack not only the idea of forgiveness, but really truly living forgiveness and compassion, you start to stop identifying people with their behaviors, because it's not who they are. It's just what they know right now. I think there's a verse in the Bible that says something like don't hate them, for they don't know like what they're doing, you know, like they're completely unaware. And that is something that is said over and over and over again. Like, people's behaviors are only a reflection of where they are at in their journey to conscious awareness. So, as you can imagine, my younger self was very distraught, and eventually I opened up and forgave my stepdad for a lot of the things, even though like I had to call the cops on him multiple times because he almost killed my mom several times. Like, he had guns in the house, he, you know, all of these things. And I share these again, like, not to be mean or anything like that towards my family. Like, this has nothing to do with that at all. I have a very good relationship with all of my whole entire family. And I just speak candidly so that you know where I'm coming from, and if this is a situation that you've been in, you know, you have a model again. So I just want to keep reiterating that. And so anyway, eventually my parents, my mom and my stepdad, got into some trouble. There was this like 7-year itch in their marriage basically, and my mom had this intuition that he was cheating on her, and at the time was like very forgiving of him. I was like, look, like he loves you. You guys have a fucked up relationship, but you know, you guys love each other. Like whatever, it's fine. And I think it was right before I graduated high school. My mom and I went to go to do a college visit at the school that I ended up going to college for, or going to college to. And I guess we're planning on going on a weekend, and then last minute my mom was like, I'm gonna change our flight tickets, like we're gonna go home a day early. And then we did that, so we got home like and took the red eye that Sunday night, and we walk into the house. We find a purse on the kitchen island. There's like cigarettes in the purse, and like it's definitely not my mom's. My mom walks into every single room. It was like a 5-bedroom house that we were living in at the time. And my mom found my stepdad in bed with another woman inside the house, buck ass naked. And y'all, it was just like off an episode of Cheaters. Like so traumatic. Like I remember distinctly like shaking uncontrollably like at 1 or 2 in the morning, because I was like, what the actual fuck is happening? Like my life is falling apart, and it's not even like my choice. Like I have no say. So that is a lot of the trauma that I went into college with. And in college, like those were some of my darkest times ever in life. I know that if you have been following me, like I've shared my own past with anger, which makes sense because both my dad and my stepdad were super physically abusive to my mom, like blatantly in front of me. So I became very angry and abusive to like my cat and also my partner that I had at the time. And it's definitely not a version of me that I ever want to revisit ever again. But I do love that version of me because I see how much pain she was in. And I think that that's super important to note as well. Anyway, cut to the last year of college. And my mom and my stepdad start talking again. And then that brought up a lot of unsettled emotions, unprocessed trauma. And I went through, that was my first spiritual awakening, I think. The first ego death that I had was when my mom did that. Because around the same time, I also was not feeling good in my relationship with my partner. He and I had been together for like 5 years at that time. And it was, just time to move on, you know? And then I think it took a couple of years for me to forgive my mom, but we eventually got back to a place where I was like, you know what, like if you're happy, I'm happy, and if he's not hurting you, like I'm good, but like you should know that if he lays a hand on you, like he's got another thing coming. Like my whole family knows about what he did at this point, and this is why I also feel very candid about sharing all this stuff. Anyway, that same year that I graduated from college, was the same year that I broke up with my boyfriend. It was the same year that my mom got back together with my abusive stepdad. It was also the year that I met my next partner, who is also now my child's baby daddy. And he and I have also, I've shared a little bit about this story in the Twin Flames video, which I'll link at the end of this video. But he and I have a really beautiful, tumultuous journey as well. Something I wouldn't trade for the world, because he showed me how much I could possibly love myself, which is completely, fully, and unconditionally. But it's a painful journey for sure. Like out of all the things that I've been through in my whole entire life, which I've just shared with you, and just like a tiny sliver of it, my relationship with my kid's dad has been like the most painful and the most rewarding. And like I think there's beauty in the ability to see that scale, the fact that both of those things exist on the same scale, proves that singularity, that feeling, that unity consciousness that I always talk about. But back to the topic, which is forgiveness. So like all of these people have done very seemingly horrible things, right? Like my baby daddy left whenever he found out that I was pregnant because he was afraid that I wouldn't give him a voice. And what really happened was that he gave up his voice by running away. And that's not something that I can force him to learn. It's not something that you can't force anybody to learn anything, first of all. But what seemingly looks like horrible, like behaviors and like things that are super mean, are actually just a reflection of where that person's at, like in their conscious awareness. And there's no reason for us to identify each other with those behaviors, right? Because I don't personally identify myself with the abusive person that behaved horribly to my partner and to my cat, you know, however many blue moons ago. That was when I was 20, so like 8 years ago. Like, I don't identify with that person at all. I am a completely reborn, multiple times over person since then. And part of that is because I was able to forgive myself, and like part of that forgiveness is like really being able to open up and be vulnerable about what you've been through and what you felt and what led to that moment, and really looking for the lessons and everything. So the 3 tips that I have about forgiveness, the first one is that we're all connected. We're all together on this one planet, doing things seemingly separate, but everything we do affects another. And because of that intrinsic fact, we all are not separate. We're all one consciousness. We're all together at all times. The second tip, so that's something that you should just like say to yourself over and over and over again, because this is something that you'll see in every spiritual text. Like, we're all one. Literally, yoga means union or yoke or, you know, community. It's like we're all one. That's what it all means. Everything comes down to the fact that we are all connected and we are all one. That second tip is that you can only have forgiveness and compassion for others as much as you have that forgiveness and compassion for yourself. There was a really long time where I was not honest with myself, and that really deteriorated me and my relationships and the people who were around me. Like, I don't want to go back to that. And so I had to look at myself and ask, like, what's harder than being in pain and suffering from holding the guilt? And it was facing myself, facing the shit that I've done, and like truly loving myself past all of that. And I think that that is something that you deserve for yourself too. And the very last tip, which I've been repeating over and over again, is that what you see in other people that you don't like is always a reflection of something that you are repressing in yourself. This is basic projection. But when you do that and you realize that fact, you can work it in your favor too, right? Like, what you see in others that you love about them, that's also in you. And this is the idea that kind of ties all of those 3 tips together. So that's kind of what I got And this was a very long video, and I hope that you guys get something out of it. I'm going to be more open about sharing my own journey, so that you guys have something to have more understanding for me, and hopefully it brings some more compassion for yourself and for the people around you, because that was the goal of this video. And I know this video is not coming out at 10:30 on Tuesday, but I made it a long one so that you can really get all the value out of it that you possibly can, and I hope that it helps. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and let me know any feedback that you have, if anything comes up for you. If you'd like to work with me, I do have a couple more one-on-one spots for my mentorship program, where we do some one-on-one coaching. And if you're a little bit intimidated by that, we can also I have group coaching available as well, where I do a sister circle every week on Thursday evening. And if you're pregnant like me, I've got a special program called Creatress that I am developing specifically for pregnant mamas to assist them through their entire pregnancy. And if you want any of the information, you can go ahead and go to my website, which is down below in the description box. I'll see you guys next week. I'm gonna go explore Colorado and go back to my roots and see so many of the people that I love and the places that I love. And if you live in Colorado, please hit me up. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.